Okay, well, I want to get started on this cross, so I have it all cut out on the jigsaw, and if you don't have a jigsaw, I guess you could do it on a bandsaw, or you could, you know, do it with a coping saw. And then I've marked by freehand kind of a halfway point, and then I've indicated all these little intersections that I'm going to carve to. So that's just something to work from. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to kind of do a halfway point on here. Okay, so I just set I kind of lock in the pen against my finger like that, so I have the bottom of my finger, the tip of my finger here is kind of causing a bearing edge, and then you can actually be remarkably accurate with this. You'll see when I get to the end it should line up. And again, this is just a guideline. You could probably use some other kind of method, but this seems to work. And it comes out pretty well on the other end. Okay, now what I'm using here, and this is really, I think, useful for a lot of the carving work, is a gel pen. It's not ink, it's some kind of gel. And what's great about it is it dries, it doesn't really smudge, but it doesn't soak into the pores of the wood. So if you're using a marker, you know, or a Sharpie, it's going to stain your wood, it's going to get into the pores. This just stays on the surface. So, you know, if you can see if I mark a piece here and I take a knife, you know, it just comes right off. It's gone. So it doesn't get into the pores of the wood. So that's really good. And it doesn't smudge like a pencil would. So if you're using a pencil to mark your work, you're going to find that, you know, it gets on your hands and then it gets back on the wood and it just makes a mess. So I'm going to do this whole carving pretty much with, you know, one or two of these two knives. Okay? The size and the brand or type of knife doesn't matter, but what's important here is the types of blades. Okay, this is more of a kind of what you call a bench knife, and this has this up sweep. This side is the blade on this, okay? So they look like these aren't how they are. This is the cutting edge is aiming down, okay? This was cut with my grain going this way. This is my grain direction, okay? So at all of these intersections, here I'm kind of going sort of with the grain, and here I'm going against it, you know, cross grain. So, but it's consistent through the whole thing, so I have the same thing to do. And I also have to cut the inside bevel, so that's going to be a challenge. So what I'm going to start doing here is cutting into these, just giving a little bit of a start to these intersections. I'll make a slight cut, and then each time I go in, if I overcut on one side, I can correct it to get back to that center. Okay, so if I take off a little too much, I can fix it to get down to where I want to go. And I have all the way down to this line to adjust it. Okay, so I'm going to do that all the way around here. Now here I'm cutting across the grain, so it's a little tougher. And what you have to be careful is if you start going the wrong way and you feel your knife getting pulled in a little too far, then you gotta, you know, stop. Okay, so I'm taking out the corners. And I've got this thumb here, and it's really helping me to kind of break my cut so I don't overdo it. So it looks like I'm just pushing in, but I'm really controlling it with this thumb by bracing it against. Okay, now I might also do that on the inside ones. Okay, if I want at this point, or I can simply do all the outside and then do the inside. So here I can come out this way. Okay, being careful of my thumb. Slow down when you get to that end. And what I want to do is not overshoot this line or this line. So I have to, I can tell you right now, my knife, I just sharpened it up, I just honed it. Now the other way I can approach this is to come away from me this way. I've got control here with this thumb on the back of my knife, and I'm kind of slicing across. Okay, because that's going to be past the halfway. Okay. So you can see kind of what I've done there. I followed that bevel line. Now the other side, I'm going to come across, you know, and I've got to meet it, and that's it. And if this is less than this, then, you know, I didn't go far enough. Now I can always correct it. And my final cut will be by eye to try to see that I've got that nice and even. Okay, so that's what I want to do. I want to have a chisel point there, and then I also want a chisel point on this side. Into the corner, into the corner. Okay, and then here, same thing. I'm going to come into that, cut right there. Okay, and then here I can just push. Kind of push my knife that way. Okay, and I'm trying to keep a consistent plane going there. So I'm sliding across as I make my cut so that I can kind of keep a nice bevel. Right, I want to try to get the whole blade to go across that cut, so that's where light cuts come in. Meeting at this line here, and try not to overshoot the halfway point there. And if it's not enough, I can always deepen my angle later with it. Okay, now when I get in there where I have to really get into this corner, there's going to be certain places here where I can't always go the way I want to go. So that's where this blade really comes in handy, because I can get right into this corner and slide through this cut. Okay, so if you find that this blade doesn't get you in there, then you can try the other one. The grain is going this way, so I can't really go that way. I have to go this way with my cut, but yet my intersection's here, so how am I going to get down in there? So what I want to do is kind of, if I can, just notch it out a little bit. It's gonna want to break because you're going the wrong way. Okay, so if I get a little bit out of there, that's where this blade is going to let me get right down in there and kind of slice across it. Okay, and I have to head down toward that angle too, so I have to push in, and at the same time not go off this curved angle. Okay, some of you guys might know a better way, but this is the only way I know. Is when you start feeling it tear out, or when you feel that knife really grab and you feel like it's just going to take off into that grain, you got to change your direction. Now the inside, same thing. I can brace it here, okay, so I can put a little pressure on it without being afraid of, stabbing myself. So now the grain, look at our grain. The grain is going this way, right? Like this. So that means I have to go this way. Here I have to go this way. And you know what? Don't be afraid to just draw that line on there. Here's the grain, so I want to go this way. And here I want to go this way. Okay? So I'm going into this corner and into this corner. As I just get some of that out like that. Okay? Then, and I'll do it over here too. Let's get that out. This is harder than it looks because I would have this closer to my body, but I'm trying to videotape it, so I have the camera on a tripod and I'm straddling it, so it's a little tricky. Okay? Again, now if I have to make that deeper to get down to my center line, I'll just have to slide across it. But the main thing is to control it and slow down when you get to that that intersection, because what you want to have here, the hallmark to this whole thing is to have crisp corners. Okay, and a crisp, I'm calling this a ridge, and you want that to be a nice sharp corner, but you also want it to be a smooth curve. And as I mentioned in the first video, it's not the easiest thing to do with basswood. So my suggestion is to practice this and get the feel with basswood, and then maybe take on something a little harder. Take on a piece of walnut or a piece of butternut and see if you can do it with that. Okay? That's the idea. We're going to continue on with that. Then we flip to the other side, do the same thing. And then maybe sand it up and whatever. And we could hang it by putting, if we want to make an ornament, we can put a hook in here, or we could even put a hook in here, or whatever. Just, keep it as a little trinket. But it's all about really practicing getting this bevel even and trying to make everything nice and flat and perfect, as close to perfect, just with a knife, without using any other guides or any other tools or anything. And it's a really good practice for that knife skill and reading the grain. And this little technique of getting in there with that point, okay, and sliding across right down along this line here. Get your tip of your knife in there. Okay, so that's a really somewhat more advanced. It's definitely not a beginner move there. Okay, taking that in takes a little practice, and this is absolutely, I wouldn't even think about trying to carve this without a glove. Okay, have a good time with this project, and keep carving, and keep carving safe. Bye bye.